Greetings and salutations, viewers. Welcome to Kineticon 2016. We are Inspire the Muse, and we are here with yet another author from Wordfire Press, and possibly the most well-dressed one here.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
We are hoping to learn a bit more about your various books and shenanigans that you get up to here.
Okay, well, I guess I can start with the first novel. It was the first one I'd written. It's called Chemical Burn. It's an alien ex-government assassin turned private detective in L.A. that pretty much slaughters the Italian mob. He's sort of a cross between the Punisher, Deadpool, Sam Spade from the 40s, and Axel Foley, all in one guy.
I'm already intrigued.
Right on. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I've had actually the last 4 shows, I have had folks ask me when the sequel's coming out, which should be hopefully next spring or summer, depending on how fast I can crank it out.
You're getting there.
Yes, I am. I've got several projects lined up now that I've got to really get into. And then what I've been working on most recently is it's this one. This came out in October. It's book 1 of the Blood War Chronicles, so it's Blood Ties. The sequel came out, and we debuted it at Comicpalooza in Houston 4 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. It's a blur.
They all blend together.
They really
a while.
do, and I've done a lot of them this year. And that book actually, it's Western steampunk epic fantasy. So I combine them all. I'm a cross-genre author.
Sold.
Yeah. It's a clockwork gunslinger who has to stop a demon apocalypse from wiping out 2 worlds. So, literally, and it's by the time you get to the end, it is epic fantasy with elves and vampires and actually a lost Indian nation, and then a demon war, but a clockwork gunslinger at the center of it all.
Huh. So 2 worlds. Was there a 2-for-1 deal?
Yeah, sort of, pretty much. Well, he discovers there are these shadow gates, and so there are these gateways to other worlds, and he has to go there to kind of help resolve the whole story.
Nice.
Or die.
We shall see.
Dun, dun, dun.
What has your creative process been like to create these stories and series?
Well, in some respects, the first book, Chemical Burn, was... I come from IT. That was 6-7 years ago now. And long story short, I am no longer in IT. I didn't want to go back.
Why ever not?
Because it was 70-hour works and I was becoming a completely miserable jerk. Well, more than now. So anyway, I said, what am I going to do with my life? And I really had always wanted to be a writer, and it was a choice between the money that came along with IT or being happy and a starving artist. I said I'd rather die happy.
It's a fair trade.
Yeah, it was, and I'm never going back. I'm happy where I am, despite a lot of the hard work and the hours and the travel. Some of it's really cool, some of it's hard. But I literally, that day I woke up, I'm going to be a writer. I sat down and in 2 months cranked out a 146,000 word.
Nice.
Well, it's not. I won't call it a masterpiece, but it's a lot of fun. People like it. It's a fun read. And like literally the past 4 or 5 shows, I've had people ask for the second one. So that's a good sign. So that was, that one kind of poured out of me. And then when I was just getting started with the writing, I was starting to hit some of the conventions in Denver. That's where I'm from.
Yep.
And I ran into a steampunk troupe that they were promoting a radio show they were doing. It was the Tales of the Great Airship Morgan. And I was like, well, hey, I'm looking for writing gigs. Can I write for you? And one thing led to another. And I wrote for them. And then it's like, when I saw them, they were steampunkers. They had, the corsets and the hats and all the gears. It was like, well, I'd grown up. I didn't know what steampunk was then, but I grew up watching Wild Wild West and 20,000 Leagues.
Nice.
And right? So I was like, well, I know what steampunk is, and I loved it as a kid.
Now, are we talking the original Wild Wild West?
Yes.
Or the movie?
Well, okay, so yes, it was the original show. I enjoyed both. Most people they pan the movie. It was fun, but I grew up with Jim West, the original, right, on television. It was Saturday morning TV, and you know how that goes. So, that's where I really got a sense of the notion of steampunk and gadgetry in the Old West. I think they did a good job of it. And he was like basically James Bond in the Old West.
Pretty much.
And then for me, I also grew up watching a lot of the Westerns, Josie Wales, Blondie from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Yep.
All of those novels are movies. That's what I watched as a kid. And so, the steampunk comes along, it's gaining momentum, and all of it was most of it anyway, was in England, which is cool, right?
Yeah.
But if any place really begs for steampunk, if you ask me, it's the Old West. right?
Yes.
There's these wide open spaces, and there's adventure, and there's the railways, and then zeppelins. There's so much you can do with it, and I did. So I wrote this one short story called Lassiter's Lucky Left. That well, I'd gotten the idea to start doing steampunk anthologies, which I do. They're called Penny Dread Tales. I've been doing it for 5-6 years now. But that one story led me into, well, this guy, there's a story there. There's a novel, and actually that novel turned into a series. So in Lassiter's Lucky Left, it's where he meets his writing partner, Cole McJunkins. And what I wanted to do was take that to the next level, and I bill myself as cross-genre. So it's like, well, this can't stay in the Old West. Where am I going? Well, let's go into fantasy, because I hadn't done that before either. And so far, it's going pretty well. I mean,
You've been having fun with it?
absolutely. I enjoy writing it. I love the characters. I love the world as it's kind of developing in my head. That's kind of the process. And the folks my reviews, surprisingly, I guess, they've been really, really good. I couldn't ask for better. People have really enjoyed both 1 and 2, and that makes a huge difference. It really does. And it's been encouraging, and it's now I'm really, really stoked to get book 3 out, which I want to have written by probably, if I can, November or maybe December.
Nice.
And then that'll be out early next year.
Very cool.
Yeah, I'm excited.
What sort of fun have you had with your characters and your worlds that really sticks out or inspired you?
Well,
Were there some eureka moments when things just all came together?
kind of. Part of it actually was part of it was the cosplay. I don't do much of it, but putting that together, I like firearms, replica firearms, and so I actually have the pistols he carries. I've got them replicas at home.
Nice.
So that's been kind of fun. But also, there's been these some of the responses I've gotten. I had an original plan for one of the antagonists in the book, Colonel Giss. They call him the Night Stalker. He was an assassin and spy for the Confederacy in the Civil War. And it's basically he knew Jake before, and then he comes back, and there's a lot of angst and conflict. I had a very specific plan for him when I was writing all of this, but I've had folks come back and say, in a number of quarters, have said, man, we love that character. We want more from him. And so I've had to kind of revisit what I plan to do with him and when. So that was kind of neat, because it's really, in some respects, for the first time, I'm having people who like my writing contributing to the creative process. And that was very new to me. I couldn't have even imagined being in that situation, and from my perspective, there's nothing better. It means that people are as engaged in this story as I am, and that's like the best compliment a reader can give you, right?
Yep.
I had a guy, this was in Chuck, if you see this, Chuck had actually asked, I met him in Dallas. This was cool. This is a neat moment for a writer. He bought this one, Blood Ties in Dallas.
Yep.
He lives there. And then Dallas was 1 weekend, 2 weeks later we were in Houston. He and his family drove down to Houston to buy book 2. And the one thing he said was, man, I love Cole McJunkins, because, Cole's the writing partner, he's not he's not the protagonist, not like Jake is. But he said, dude, I want to see more about Cole. I want to learn more about him. He's got his story. And Cole does. And as a result of that conversation and how engaged he was, there's going to be at least a novella I'm going to write as a result. That's Cole's backstory. And, there's always the intention of having Cole take sort of the center stage it's the next book. Each one has a different character on the cover.
Yep.
And so Cole may get, it's actually the 4th book. Skeeter, she's the young engineering whiz. She's the focus in book 3, then Cole, and then that's where we really kind of see what Cole is all about.
Very cool.
And I'm looking forward to that. And like I said, it was a fan who influenced really a major component of the story. It's because of him I have an idea of I'm going to do a couple of things a little differently, and it's all because of you, Chuck. So thanks, man. It's
awesome.
It was some neat stuff. Yeah, I'm lucky.
I know you've teased some of the things that are upcoming or impending. Is there anything coming out this year or next that our viewers can really look forward to?
Well, there is a project that I can't actually talk about in specifics, right? I'm not sure. So it's Kevin Wordfire Press is involved,
Yep.
and another couple of brothers that are involved in that project. I'm really fortunate to have been selected to write a novel for them. So that is my first order priority once we sort out the details. Basically, once I can talk about it, I'm going to be shouting that from the rooftops, because that's a huge deal for me.
Very cool.
I've been kind of I started out with short fiction, and then the novels have come out, but I'm still kind of a no-name, kind of. Although with all the cons I go to, that's been changing. But this is something it kind of moves me up a notch into onto a bigger stage.
Nice.
And it's a really neat property that I get to write in. I'm looking forward to it. It's right up my alley. It really is.
That's awesome.
That's a big deal. And then I've got the 2 sequels I need to write. One for this series, one for Chemical Burn. That'll be over the winter. And then there's a series or a book I want to write that I'm going to hopefully get placed with one of the major publishers if I can. And that's going to be kind of new adult fiction featuring a young girl with psychic powers it's like future off-world steampunk. I've got most of it outlined, so that's a whole other project. And that one I'm going to shop around and see if I can actually be a true hybrid author, where I started self-published. I'm with a small to medium publisher, but I want to get a big book deal, and that one's got a shot, I think.
Very cool.
Yeah, a lot going on.
And for our viewers out there, where can they find your current works to enjoy?
Okay, so ultimately go to www.quincyallen.com. Everything I have, that's the gateway to all of my stuff. Primarily, you'll find my books available on, print you can get on Amazon and Barnes & Noble online. And then for the ebooks, you can get them on, Amazon, Kobo, Barnes & Noble in a Nook format, iBooks or iTunes, and Smashwords is the other one. Yeah. So I'm getting around. Oh, and actually, it hasn't hit yet, but hopefully in like the next week or so, Chemical Burn is going to be on Audible. So I'm breaking into that environment. Yeah, I can't wait. The voice actor who did it, I heard the audition tapes. It's back in October last year. There's a couple of my favorite characters in that book or that series, and he nailed. The guy's name is Yevgeny. He's this like 70-year-old Russian pit fighter who is just lethal. But he's also a smart aleck. So he gives the protagonist, who's a smart aleck, all kinds of grief. He's always busting his chops, and he's one of my favorites in that book. He's just cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us. We really
My pleasure.
appreciate it.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
And to all our viewers out there, go check out all the other interviews and shenanigans we get up to at ConnectiCon 2016 over on our YouTube channel, on our website, all that good stuff. And as always, until next time, go be creative.